Fedora Gal here. Today we're going to tackle part 2 of my $20 LED light series, the box light. This light, super quick and easy to do, especially if you've already tackled the ring light from my previous video. And when we're done, you're going to have at least 10 meters of extra lighting left over to make more of these pretty box lights, or another ring light, or whatever you need for your lighting setup. Isn't that fantastic? What more could you ask for? Anyway, we're gonna get right into that in a minute. But first, if you want to connect with me more on a daily basis, make sure that you follow me on any of my social media links below. And just a reminder, if you want to chat with me daily, come visit me on Twitch. I stream every day except for Monday and Friday to a lovely group of Fedora warriors, and I would love to see you there. All right, enough about that stuff. Let's get the shenanigans started. All right, so the first thing that you are going to want to do is measure out the distance of your light. Here you see me measuring a 6-inch light and an extra 2 inches for the outsides. Make sure you mark both the inside and the outside so you know where to cut. I'm using the cardboard's existing bend just to help me out so that I have one less cut to do, but if you have one full sheet of cardboard, that makes sense. Now I'm going to measure across in the corners, because we will have to cut these in order to make the cardboard bend up. And of course, take your time cutting it out. Now is a good time to mention the tools that you will need. Just like for the ring light video, you are going to need a soldering iron, some cardboard, some wax paper, aluminum foil, a hot glue gun, and scissors or a knife, and of course some solder. When you're cutting the cardboard, in order to bend it, make sure you only score through the top side of the cardboard. Do not cut all the way through. And here I find that I needed to make a slightly larger angle on the corner to bend it up. I didn't really measure it, I just sort of played it by ear. So that's what I'm doing here. Next up, you're going to want to glue the corners together all the way around. You have to hold it for a few minutes. Remember that the glue is hot, so watch your fingers. And then reinforce it by putting a little extra glue on the outside. Now you've got a nice concave box. We're going to start with the aluminum foil. Same thing like before, cut it to be a little bit larger. Then we're going to glue it into place and trim it down. Here you see me measuring out the strips. I decided on 6 strips of 3 lights in each, cutting them on the copper line. You'll see me as I'm starting to solder that I'm going to be putting these dots in. And that is it actually just makes the soldering faster and easier. So if I have these pre-done with the solder already attached to the copper, because sometimes it's a pain in the butt, then you pre-tin your wire and it makes it super easy for the wiring to attach together. Attached to the strips. Just remember that you have to watch the positives and the negatives and make sure negative goes to negative and positive goes to positive. Here we are just starting to add in the rest of those drops. Anywhere that there was a cut in the wire, this part here, I accidentally cut that strip, so I'm just making sure it's soldered together. And just pre-tinning the copper portions that I'm going to be attaching wires to. Now we're going to start putting in the wires, so you'll want to pre-make those, make sure you have the right thing, and pay close attention here that the positive wire is going to the positive on each strip. Remember, the strip should be laid in reverse on your light. Pre-tinning the wire is best, so that is what you see here. Just do a quick, put your soldering iron down, put a little tin on the wire. It's much easier when you have good wire to do it with, and that just makes it solder together faster in your light. here we are just going along with the black wires. I actually ran out of black wiring and ended up coloring the pink wire with a Sharpie so that I could distinguish between the two easily. And at the end, you want to make sure that you double check that everything is running the right way. Okay, now that we've got everything soldered and done and ready to go here, you can see that this over here in this corner, this is the end. I've actually got a couple solder joints there because I meant to continue this, but I've decided not to. And of course, the start is over here where we've drawn our black hole, which is where the wires are going to come in. Now you can take more wiring like the pink wiring here and use that and simply attach the ring light LED strip and into the LED strip here. That way, when you turn on the ring light, you can use the same fader to control both lights. Me, because I would like the ability to disconnect one or the other lights depending on what I am doing, I had to order a couple of these power extensions, and I ordered a Y cable so that I could take one dimmer pack and control all of my lighting off the same dimmer pack. Now you can actually purchase a wire like this, because this is the end that I need, with the other end with just open wires. But instead of buying 2 extensions and 2 of those wires and 2 Y cables, I just ordered one package of 2 3-foot extensions, and I'm going to open up the end here and just use the wiring. Okay, so we're just going to cut this cable back a little bit so that we can get the inside exposed, and you can see the 2 wires in the end there. We're going to very carefully with a knife just split the end of the wiring. And when I say very carefully, I mean very carefully. You do not want to cut your fingers, nor do you want to cut the knife or cut the wire. And you can see on the inside here, when my fingers are not in the way, that there is a red and a black wire. So you just want to peel back enough of the rubber so that you can strip this wire properly to attach it to your points over here. There we go. Now we've got 2 wires. We've got the black and white folded out there, and our other end is still all ready to go to plug in. I don't need a lot of room, but what you are going to want to do is you're going to want to glue this in place so that if it's tugged on or whatnot, it's not going to tug on your wire. Remember that you want to line up positive to positive and negative to negative. So this red one, this one at the top here that I've marked with a red dot is the positive, and the one on the bottom is the negative. Okay, we are ready to test. I've disconnected my other light just so that in case there's any issues before I turn this on, and I'm just going to slowly bring the dimmer up. You always want to test it before you do the next set. All the lights are working. Everything is working fantastic. I can go super bright, so bright that we're going to wash the whole camera out. Look at how bright I can go. Or I can keep it nice and dim, so this light is working perfectly. And I will now connect. Let me turn that down a little bit. Sharpen your eyeballs. And I'm going to connect my other ring light. There we go. So I now have both of my lights on together. They brighten and they dim together. And we are ready for the next step, which is covering it with the wax paper. Okay, and the last step for our box light is to do the same thing we did with the ring light. You're going to take a piece of just wax paper, plop your light on top, and trace it with whatever you have available. Again, you're just going to want to cut it a little bit bigger. So make sure when you're following your lines that you are doing that so that it folds over the top really nicely. I'm going to leave the 2 sides like this pretty much. And just like you did when you made the light initially, we're going to cut in the corners. Try not to get any wrinkles in it, but if you do get a few, that's okay. Make sure you're pulling it nice and tight. The important thing here is just to get it as nice and smooth as possible, which was the same process for the ring light. And now when we connect this, now we've got some light diffusion happening, and it's not going to be as harsh on your eyeballs. Great, so we just finished putting that light together, and the one piece I didn't talk about is the mounting. Remember, we're trying to go as cheap as possible, so in order to mount this light, what I did was I grabbed one of these eyelets just for hanging pictures, something I normally have around the house, and I just screwed it up into my ceiling and hung the light from there.